within stone structures barefoot, because their higher self is choosing to be in a higher resonance environment. And so I think really the interchanges going on in the human heart and the human consciousness and within human telepathic ability really lead us away from these mechanized, confused technologies that were literally ripped out of Tesla's lab and taken and forced down people's throats before his research could be completed and applied, thoughtfully.
Yeah.
And so what we have is literally this rewiring of the energies around us, because we're trying to run AC currents everywhere instead of using wireless technology in the earth resonance frequencies as Tesla had discovered to be most effective, and that's where telepathy steps in. So I think the key here is understanding that not only are there the benefits of prayer and of crystallization of the water and everything that Masaru Emoto talks about, but there's a deeper level of DNA and DNA conformation which we need to get into to really address the changes that happen holistically in the body, because DNA is really at the core of human emotional content.
Mm-hmm.
And human spiritual growth is obviously linked to emotion, and our ability to meditate and be at peace with ourselves and with the world is directly tied into how we perceive the world and how we interact with it through our DNA and through literally the acoustic and electric interaction that we have. So that concept, I think, is something that we really need to bring to the fore, and I'm just going to, throw it out there right now.
Cool.
The confirmation of DNA is really something that everyone has missed, and I think is huge, because research shows that when participants in studies were shown videos of peaceful scenes, meditative scenes, and then immediately shown video of violent scenes or anger or, fear, those emotional states showed in their DNA a direct winding of the DNA helix and a direct simultaneous decrease in the conductivity of DNA and the ability of DNA to receive and transmit energy from its environment and to other cells. So these changes happen immediately, the researchers found, and this is actually U.S. military research, which is why we don't hear about it, done by INSCOM and promoted by Greg Braden, which was the source that I first heard about this. But essentially, INSCOM was able to show that the electrical state and the state of mind of a person, the conductivity increased dramatically, and as in a state of peace or meditation, as the DNA unwound into a perfectly straight ladder. Or, it would curve, I imagine, but there would be no twisting of the DNA strand. And so in real time, they were able to record how, as someone tensed up with fear at seeing a change in the video screen images towards violence, their DNA would immediately wind up. So the idea of being unwound or being wound up directly has to do with what's going on in every cell of our body within our DNA in real time with our emotions.
See that, and from that, I just want to. It's so obvious at this point, but again, we can also understand why we are so inundated with the violence, on the TV and on the media, and why they chose to give us that, so to speak, and also this connects with the wireless systems around us and the cell phone radiation. It's like we're being, as these natural energies that you were talking about, Alex, are probably heading towards Earth, or we're being part of that, we're also slowly, if you will, being cut off from those energies. The more we focus on the things that goes on in the media, or even being in a city where wireless and cell phone radiation is very prominent. Would you agree with that, Alex? Definitely,
definitely. And I think that a lot of the brilliance of someone like Anastasia in Siberia has to do with her ability to live in a purest human state where the water she drinks, the air she breathes, the sound impacting her body, her biorhythms are all aligned with that through her ancient practices and her cultural knowledge. And I think that's the example. And Edgar Cayce really said it in one of his predictions, that the hope of the world would come through Russia. And I hope to follow her amazing lead and present the science behind the concepts that, heartbeat resonance and heartbeat synchronization is the direct way to not only telepathy, but a whole different experience of the world, which has been defined scientifically as synesthesia, which is something that I experience and is a complex topic to get into, but I think worth getting into because I believe these are the conditions that the pyramids engender when people develop spiritually within them, or when gestation occurs within the pharaoh's infants. I think all of these situations really lead to synesthesia, and that and a great example of that might be Daniel Tammet, who's now turning heads in England for his amazing mathematical abilities, as well as his ability to express what goes on in his synesthetic experience of numbers and the higher mathematical realms, really.
Is there something more? Sorry, say the name again of the person. Daniel
Tammet. Tammet.
Can you also mention something briefly about him?
Yeah, I've written about him in my second book, Tesla's Rebirth, which goes into some of my reincarnation realizations. But Daniel Tammet is really an amazing guy. People have known him as Pi Man because he recited over 250,000 digits of pi over 5 hours of length in recitation by memory. So he's someone who experiences numbers in a more complex way than I do, but certainly my experience of mathematics reflects what he describes as well, which is a kind of illumination of light in our perception and in our emotional experience of images and thoughts that we're having that seem to provide information, critical information about the environment or about what's being sought. For example, people channel information, and it seems like Daniel Tammet and the whole ability with synesthesia is to be able to immediately receive. For example, people say Daniel Tammet does not do math in his head; he simply channels the answer.
Sure.
In effect.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like a meta function or a higher function of the human consciousness that manifests through a luminous field that's experienced around the body in color and light. And I would like to say as well, in my experience of it, Daniel Tammet does not mention this much, although he was diagnosed with autism when he was young. And the whole shaking and rhythmic rocking back and forth or banging of the head that autistic children demonstrate, I believe, has to do with reinforcing that heartbeat that they're missing from their environment. And that's exactly what they have in the womb. The fetus is inverted in the womb with the root chakra of the infant right underneath the mother's heart. And so the heartbeat is literally resonating and synchronizing the biorhythms of the mother and child in the womb, exactly as the pyramids were designed to do with two people on opposite sides of the planet. So this concept right there really comes from the deep knowledge of the mother culture, the kind of maternal culture or matriarchal culture of this Sanskrit society. And, I believe that's something that Tesla had really tuned into in his research. And I think that, the indigenous cultures of the world right now are recognizing this shift of power towards the matriarchal leadership.